And they want it to be properly vetted and fact-checked, one of Facebook's favorite terms, before they allow the information to be published on their platforms. I don't understand what it is they have to fact-check. This is true information. Even the Democrats themselves have not denied that these emails are real. Think about that for a minute. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, their attorney, the Democratic campaign party, none of them have come out and said, oh no, these emails are fake. This is all fake. This isn't real. Nobody has said this. So exactly what is it that Facebook and Twitter feel that they have to fact check? Facebook and Twitter have repeatedly, for years, have allowed unvetted, misleading, incorrect, lying, dishonest, deceitful articles about Trump to run rampant on their platforms for the last 4 or 5 years. I can't recall a single time that any accusation was made about Trump where Facebook and Twitter stepped in and took it down and said, no, you can't post this until we have a chance to vet it and fact check it to make sure it's real. In fact, if it's something negative that's being said about President Trump, they don't fact check it at all, ever. I can't think of a single time I've ever heard anyone say that their account has been locked out, banned, or suspended for any length of time because of making up false stories and accusations about President Trump. But the minute the truth comes out about the Democrats, Twitter and Facebook put on their communist hats and begin communist-level censorship right here in the United States. There are lists out there available of lie after lie after lie, literally dozens of lies and false accusations that have turned out to never be true about President Trump, that Facebook and Twitter still allow on their platforms to this day. I have no doubt that this whole fact-checking experience is coincidentally going to take about 3.5 to 4 weeks. It won't be until after the elections that Twitter and Facebook, unless their hands are forced by the U.S. government, but it won't be until after the U.S. elections that Twitter and Facebook will have had this story fact-checked and then allow it to be put onto their platforms. If that's not corruption, I don't know what is. That is a direct meddling in the information which is part of the voting process here in the United States of America. We base who we're going to vote on the information that's presented to us. And when the powers that be only allow dishonest, deceitful lies to be presented to us, and they hide the truth from us, how can we have a fair election? We can't. Facebook and Twitter want to point fingers and make accusations about Russian collusion, meddling in the election, and, misinformation being presented on their platforms, and, they want to protect the election. And then they go and they do this. It's hypocrisy. It's communist level censorship and hypocrisy. It's no wonder that Dorsey and Zuckerberg have already been subpoenaed by the Senate to answer questions pertaining to the censorship on these platforms. That's a true story, by the way. Don't know if you've heard about it. If you'd like, we can do another show on that. But Dorsey and Zuckerberg have been subpoenaed by the Senate. Now, this isn't just a civil hearing. This isn't just somebody had walked into a courtroom, decided they wanted to sue these people, and now it's been heard all the way up the chain, the Supreme Court. That's not what this is. This is the United States Senate witnessing for themselves the immense, rampant censoring that is taking place on Twitter and Facebook, the biased censoring that is taking place on Twitter and Facebook. And they are demanding that Dorsey and Zuckerberg appear before them to answer for it. What is your reasoning for this? Why are you allowing this to happen? Zuckerberg's been in trouble many times. This isn't anything new to him, sitting before Congress and the Senate answering questions for his actions. And now they have to do it again. I have no doubt. And that's not even because of this new censorship over the Hunter Biden emails. They were already subpoenaed because of censorship. So I have no doubt that that the censorship that's happening because of the Hunter Biden emails will definitely be brought up. Unfortunately, it's too late. And because of people like Dorsey and Zuckerberg with Twitter and Facebook hiding these facts and taking down these links and preventing these links from being shared, there are people out there that will see these actions and just assume that Facebook and Twitter is doing this because of its lies, inadvertently and indirectly making Trump look even worse, therefore affecting how they are going to vote. So Twitter and Facebook is, in a very real sense, directly meddling in the U.S. election by preventing truthful and factual information being presented, very relevant truthful and factual information being presented to the United States citizens. Joe Biden's campaign had declared or made a statement saying that they had absolutely no problem with these tech giants, Twitter and Facebook, censoring this story. They didn't take the opportunity and the spotlight to say, oh, no, these emails aren't real. These accusations aren't real. There's no truth to this. That's not what they said. They took that opportunity and they took that spotlight, and the words that came out of their mouth was, we're okay with Twitter and Facebook censoring the story. I've been telling people for a really long time, the Democratic Party is corrupt. Yes, there's corruption in the Republican Party too. I don't deny that. But the corruption that is within the Democratic Party is immeasurable. It's unfathomable. It's insane. You can't measure the amount of corruption in that party. They will do anything, including cheat, to win an election. They will do anything, including supporting the hiding of factual, real information from the American people just to win an election. Shouldn't they instead be fighting for our First Amendment rights? I mean, they are our politicians. They are our elected officials, elected to represent us, our best interest, not theirs. That's the oath they take as politicians. Shouldn't they instead be fighting for our First Amendment rights and speaking out against Twitter and Facebook, regardless of how damning it is? That's their job. They shouldn't have put themselves in that situation to begin with. And again, they're not denying these stories about this hard drive and the information on this hard drive. They're not denying that they're real. They're just saying they're glad it's being censored. We don't know just how deep this rabbit hole goes, but I'm sure over the coming days and the coming weeks and probably even the coming months, we will occasionally hear more and more about this story, these stories. There will likely be many more smoke and mirrors situations which will come up to help deflect away from these stories. The mainstream media certainly won't cover it unless it's in a positive light. But the FBI has had these emails for over a year or about a year, and yet no charges have been made. No investigations have been conducted. Nobody's been questioned. Why not? It's because it's the Democratic Party involved. If this were Trump, no doubt the Democrats and the Democratic followers would be circling the White House with literal pitchforks and torches and chanting to have him removed from the White House. But because of Democrats, it's acceptable. Not only is it acceptable, but our social media platforms come in and they begin to act like publishers instead of service providers, and they begin to delegate and determine what they see fit to be presented to the American people. I can't help but to ask the question in my mind, with both of these companies that Hunter Biden is involved in with these multi-million and multi-billion dollar deals, and with his dad clearly being there both times it's happened, they're energy companies in the energy industry, specifically oil and natural gas, and with the connections between CEFC and the movement of gas between nations, as I had read you in that Senate report. And part of Joe Biden's stance for his campaign, his platform here, it has been about energy. I can't help but to wonder if there isn't something much deeper there. Is Joe Biden possibly being compensated for his political influence? I mean, is the shares that are being held in his name by Hunter Biden, this money that's being received, these lavish and extravagant shopping sprees, companies don't just give that stuff away unless they're getting something in return. They're not getting experience in return because Hunter Biden has none. So what is their interest? What are they getting back? Why is some of the most key talking points from Joe Biden about energy? What's really going on behind the scenes? And are we being sold out by Joe Biden himself through his son? You have to wonder. I mean, it's proven now that Joe Biden is lying when he says that he has no knowledge of his son's business dealings. You don't go on lavish shopping sprees worth over $100,000 or have hundreds and hundreds of shares held in your name or set up billion-dollar deals and not know what's going on. If that's true, you have absolutely no damn business being president of the United States because you don't know what's going on. This is very real. It's all over the place. I know it is. I get that. And I really hope that the pieces to this puzzle start to come together for all of us very soon. I would like to see how this comes together. I would like to see how this plays out. But the censoring is grotesque. I truly hope that Twitter and Facebook have to face the piper because they are not publishers. They have no right nor authority to hide the truth from the American people. The American people should be extremely pissed off right now at both of these platforms. Now, I'm not saying that, we should all just shut down and walk away from these platforms entirely. But I do think it'd be very good to send a message to both Twitter and Facebook. There is, within the settings of these platforms, an ability to go into your account and to shut it off. You can go into your Facebook account, go into the settings and actually turn your account off. Now, to anyone else who's searching you, it will look like you're not even on Facebook. Your account is gone. It will say this account's no longer active or this account's not available, something along those lines. And when you do this, you do have the ability to go log back into your account and turn it back on. You don't lose your account. But if your account's off, information isn't being shared. You're not, the people who pay for information to be seen on Facebook or Twitter isn't being seen, and information isn't being shared. And Facebook would feel the effects of that. People should be so mad right now that they are leaving Twitter and Facebook in droves. There should be a mass exodus of these two platforms right now in the United States. That's how mad people should be over this. But the reality is we know that they're not going to leave them because there's not much else out there to choose from in ways of social media. But what wouldn't be a bad idea to send a message that we as the American people will not stand for communist level censorship in our country is to shut our accounts off. 2 days, 3 days, just 36 hours. Spend the time with family, but send the message that we will not stand for this. Facebook themselves may not have to answer to you, but they do have to answer to their shareholders. And their shareholders do answer to you. When information isn't being shared, advertisers will back off. When advertisers back off, shareholders lose money. And Facebook and Zuckerberg do have to answer to the shareholders. They absolutely do. And that's how you send a message to them. America has no room or place for communist level censorship. It doesn't belong here. This is a threat to our free speech. Twitter is flat out blocking this story. The FEC has since filed a complaint against Twitter. There's enormous backlash against Twitter right now on the internet. So bad so that Twitter is even redoing how they handle these situations. They're rewriting their policies for how they handle this type of situation in the future. There's that much backlash right now against them. The people are pissed, and we should be. But this is how free speech dies. This is it. What we saw, this communist level censorship, that's how free speech dies. It does not matter to Facebook nor Twitter that the story was 100% true. It does not matter to Facebook or Twitter that these emails are 100% real. It does not matter to Facebook or Twitter that the meetings, these diplomatic meetings and trips involving Joe Biden going to Ukraine and China with little Hunter Biden in tow, does not matter to Facebook or Twitter that that's real, that happened. Does not matter to Facebook or Twitter that there is video evidence and evidence within the U.S. military that Hunter Biden indeed has a drug usage problem. It does not matter to Twitter or Facebook that the Democrats themselves have not come out and said that none of this is real, because these are no longer allegations. This is a story release, and it is 100% real. This is the epitome of communist censorship. They didn't ban this story, block this story, or prevent this story because it was potentially fake, because there was no evidence that it was fake. They blocked, banned, and prevented the story simply because they wanted to protect Joe Biden and the election. I have no doubt that's what their agenda was. This is damning information that would have and could have and still will have a damning effect on his ability to win the 2020 presidential election. And Facebook and Twitter immediately went into high gear to conduct damage control unlike anything ever seen before. And they attacked this story as fast as they could. The only thing that mattered to them is that it made Joe Biden look bad. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't care that it was real. They just wanted to protect the Democrats. That proves, without a doubt, that both Twitter and Facebook are leftist-leaning companies that engage in bias censorship, because that is the very definition of biased censorship. This is the fall of free speech. The first rock on Free Speech Mountain has fallen, and I really hope we don't see more of this to come. If Facebook and Twitter get away with this in the Senate, there's no telling what's next. This is what it looks like when free speech begins to die. This is what communist censorship and socialism looks like. And you should be pissed right now. I know I am.
We went to Kiev and found even among Joe Biden supporters in Ukraine, Hunter's hiring was troubling.
How do you judge what Hunter Biden was doing?
I think that Hunter Biden did a very bad thing, and he was very wrong. He allowed his name to be abused.
And Ukraine wasn't the only country where Hunter Biden's business and his father's diplomacy as vice president intersected. It also happened in China.
I'm Kevin McIntyre, and you have just listened to episode 9 of the Podfather Show.